So basically repurposing your content. Anything that you create, you can manipulate it or tweak it into something else. That way you don't have to continue to work so hard.
Welcome to Two VAs and a Mic, your guide to making money and serving your community. In our podcast, we'll help you learn about the journey of monetizing your skills and providing your services professionally, all from the comfort of your home.
We also will talk to our business owners, authors, writers, CEOs, and solopreneurs who may use or benefit from using a VA in their business. Boil all that down to two VAs and a mic, and then mix them together with two different perspectives, flared with expertise.
What do you get? Shauntá Harris, founder of Shauntá's VA, LLC.
And Lovelee Brooks, founder of Lovelee Occasions and Etc., LLC. So today we are talking about where to find VA job opportunities. And it is hosted by the Virtual Assistants Alliance Club. Now, we are here every single Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We were supposed to talk about this subject last Monday. And then this Monday, we were going to also talk about repurposing content and how to repurpose content to reach a bigger audience. So we're actually going to do a little bit of both of that today. Try to catch up, get ourselves back in line. So we're just excited. My name is Lovelee Brooks, and I am the founder of Lovelee Occasions and Etc. We are a virtual assistant agency, and we specialize in operations. So we alleviate business owners and CEOs from the day-to-day management in the back end of their business. This allows them to have more time so they can actually focus on what matters, which is scaling the bottom line of their business, expanding, or even just spending more time with your family. I am also a coach for new and inspiring virtual assistants. So I do help them build from very beginning foundation a thriving career in virtual assisting. And I will pass the mic over to Shauntá so she can introduce herself.
Good morning. My name is Shauntá Harris. I am the founder of Shauntá's VA. I specialize in newsletters, blogs, privacy policies, and low content books.
Shauntá, I guess we can go ahead and jump into where to find virtual assistant job opportunities.
All right. So when I was starting my business, and even now, I use a lot of Facebook groups. So that is a suggestion I would recommend to anyone. Facebook groups, when you go into them, if you read the rules, some of them have the opportunity for small businesses to post job ops, hashtag job ops. And a lot of that for virtual assistants or anything remote, you will find a ton of opportunities. Sometimes you have to cipher through them, but it is definitely a great place to start. The next place I would say would be Upwork. Upwork is very useful for a lot of people. Gives me a little frustration, but a lot of people get a lot of gigs from Upwork, and it's a great beginning place as well. Sometimes the prices may be lower than what you would prefer, but you have to start somewhere, right? So even some of the lower priced ones is a great opportunity to still put yourself out there and have a reference from one of those particular clients. Another place would be Flex Jobs. That's pretty cool too. I did find a couple of gigs on that. Just create your profile and just make sure you have your trigger words. And my last one I have for right now would be LinkedIn. LinkedIn is, to me, one of the better platforms because it's, business based, and the job opportunities right there. You would be able to know what they're looking for, what their price point is, and if you're able to adjust the price with whomever you may interview with.
I thought those were really good suggestions. I think there are opportunities everywhere.
And I think what we need to do when we feel like, okay, I really need a client and I can't find a client, I'm going to go through some step processes because I know a lot of people like step by steps. The first thing I would do is contact everybody that you're already friends with and say, hey, I am a virtual assistant and I can do everything that assistant that is in your physical space can do. I do social media. I'm going to help elevate businesses. Do you feel like this is something I can assist you with, or do you know of anyone who may be able to use my services? Now, this works really great, especially if you're newer. But I'm going to tell you something, even if you're not newer, you can go back and just kind of tweak it in a way. I know some people will say, hey, I am taking clients at this time. To word something that way, it insinuates that number one, maybe you're highly sought after because you don't always take clients. So you can just say, hey, I am looking to take on a few more clients at this time. Reach out to all your friends, all your family, tell them what you do. Try to be as This is another thing that I feel like gets in the way for some people. Explain it in a way that they would understand it. A lot of times, especially with us being in our virtual assistant space, we all know what a virtual assistant is. We all know what, the initials VA is. We all know what we do. But if you're talking to someone who has a brick and mortar business and maybe they're not that technologically inclined, they're actually a better fit for you in most cases because they do need you, but you have to talk where they're at. You have to explain it in a way that they're going to understand it. And so just remember that, because sometimes we can get so caught up in, hey, the landing pages and the integration and blah blah blah. If you got somebody who's just got a salon, they may not understand. You may be talking with terminology over their head. So make sure you remember that and you explain it in a way that they understand it. And I'll be honest, sometimes I know for me, I have to explain it several different ways, several different times for them to kind of get it. So one of the basic ways I like to say is it's just like having your own personal assistant, but I do everything remotely. So you can say, hey, if you need me to go through your calendar and make sure that's organized, do you need me to make sure, go through your emails because it's overwhelming? Do you need me to contact some calls? If you're a general VA, those are some of the simple things that you can just explain to them. So, be like, I'm just your little right hand person and I'm here to do that. So, that's one way. And then you ask to share for them to share it with the people they know, or at least try to find two other people that they know. People do really well with specifics too. That's something that I've just, you know, learned over time. You have to ask people specifically what you want from them, and you usually have a greater turnout of them doing it. So just to say, hey, can you share it with your friends and family? You do. But if they seem like the type is like, well, yeah, I don't. Well, can you find maybe just two business owners that you deal with, maybe where you work or where one of your friends work, that may be able to use my services? The more specific you are, then it does make a difference. So that would I would say would be your first thing when you're just looking for a client. You're like, oh, I need a client. The reason for that is the people that you're talking to and that's on your list, they already know you, they already trust you. So when they even talk to someone that you don't know, they know that person that knows you and they trust that person. So that already gives you credibility. So it's more likely that someone like that would book with you than just, perhaps if you happen to find a client in these internet streets. I'm not saying it can't happen, because it can and it does. But yeah, don't forget the people that are just around you. So that would be the first thing that I would do. The second thing that I might would go do is I do think Facebook groups are great. I would say if this is the case, try to think about who you want to work with because there is a Facebook group for everything. So if you think you want to work with real estate agents, there's literally so many different real estate agent Facebook groups. But it's a great way to go into it because they're all talking about real estate and they're all talking about the house they sold and, the next house they're going to flip. And sometimes you will hear them just kind of like have conversations about, yeah, I really need to get out there, but I don't have any time. Then that's when you swoop in and you say, hey, I am a virtual assistant that specializes working with real estate agents, and I would love to help you get more visibility with your business by posting your social media or by doing your YouTube channel for you. And then you just say, my regular rates start at blah, 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 start at. But I would love to schedule like a coffee meeting or a virtual tea meeting, whatever you want to call it, so we can kind of, get to see if this would be a great fit. There you go. Also, I would suggest make sure when you do little warm leads like that you are writing it down. Put it in a lead tracker, put where you saw them at, how you contacted them, and a little bit of notes on, why you even approach them. Because you're going to want to follow up. If they don't book that call right away with you, you want to be able to say, hey, yeah, I saw you in XYZ group last week. And I just noticed that you didn't schedule that meeting. And I really would love to help you elevate your business to gain that visibility you were talking about. You know, if you're still, open to that, make sure that you just go ahead and schedule a call or how would it be best for us to connect? You can even ask that if you need to. So Facebook groups are really good because honestly, there's just so many of them and people are on there talking about their problems. And you have to remember when you're a virtual assistant, you are the problem solver. So you have to look for people who are discussing their problems, whether it be, I don't have time to do my social media, I don't have time to go through my email. You're not looking for someone that says, I need a social media manager. Now, don't get me wrong. If the door's open, go through it. But I'm just saying, sometimes it's not going to be presented to you that way. It's going to be presented as a person who's kind of frustrated because they're just not sure what to do. Those are your perfect clients. You're here to solve their problem. So yes, I would say that would be my next one. Then everyone has so many different ways to what works best for them. Now, I have always been an Upwork type of person. I love Upwork. I just went through a strategy session with my mentees on what I do for Upwork and how I get my clients on Upwork. 90% of all of my clients have came from Upwork. So I just want to say they're on there. And as far as pricing goes, you still dictate the price. If the price is too low, you shouldn't be applying for that position. So do not sit here and feel like you have to take something lower because you don't. You do, like Shauntá said, have to start somewhere. So I will tell you, one thing that I did when I was first on Upwork, just this little tiny tidbit I will give y'all. My first 3 jobs on Upwork had nothing to do with virtual assisting. It was giving feedback. I remember one was feedback on like a lemon squeezer. One was feedback on, I think, a hairbrush. And then there was one more. That was it. I think each job may have been like $10 to $15. but it literally obviously just took maybe 5 minutes of my time. And you're like, okay, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, those people leave you reviews and they leave you stars. And when it comes to platforms like Upwork, and I would even imagine Fiverr, people are looking at that. They're looking at the job success rate and satisfaction. So if you don't have any jobs at all, it might be very difficult for you to come in there and say, I want $100 an hour. However, once you get one job and it's a 5-star rating, you start receiving invitations to you. You don't even have to bid for the jobs. They just come to you and they just start asking you. So that is something to look at. Now, like I told my mentees, do these people realize that this was like a little $10 job and not anything that I'm talking about now? No. And honestly, they don't care. They just seen that, number one, I must be legit because I've worked on Upwork before. They see that the people I worked with were extremely happy with the job that I gave them. So now I can go on Upwork and say, hey, I want to help you build your team and I want, $125 an hour for it. And it's like, oh, well, she has 100% success rate. So we may want to do that with her. She may be a really great candidate over maybe someone else who is on there as a project manager and only have a 4-star job success rate. So I'm just saying, do be open to those things. And every once in a while, you'll see some just very simple jobs on Upwork where they want you to take surveys or something that has nothing to do with maybe what you're looking for. But just remember, if it's something you feel like you can do, go ahead and do it because that's just going to give you that stepping stone to do what you want to do, if that makes sense. So yes, that is that. After that, what would I say? Oh, and as far as Upwork too, always bid more money than what it is that you think it is, that you would normally do, only because that is a platform that takes a percentage, right? So you want to make sure you're bidding actually higher than what maybe you normally would, just so you feel like you're okay with it. After that, I would say don't forget about your local communities and your quote unquote local people. I have joined some business alliance commerce groups just in my local city. And then you even have those national business groups. I'm thinking of one, BNI, Business National, maybe Incorporation. I don't know what it stands for. But anyway, there are groups that have national listings. And some of them, like one that I'm thinking about, and I have talked about, not only do they work with referrals, but they also have benefits that come with them, such as like health insurance and so forth and so forth. But it's an alliance of business owners. So don't forget to think outside of the box and not just what's online. I think what's online is great. I do love getting clients that are online, because usually they are a little bit more comfortable, at least with the remote atmosphere. And, if you found them online, usually they're a little bit tech savvy enough to, send you an email, to maybe even send you a Zoom call or so forth. But I always present that as a benefit for my local people as well. I always tell them, yes, I am a remote person being a virtual assistant. However, because you are local, I am, one of the benefits of having someone local is I can run up the street if I need to and clarify things if I need to. You can see my face. Like we can really meet up. And sometimes that helps too because that's the trust factor. And you guys have to remember there's people in these brick and mortar places that they know there's money to be made when they have a social media presence, when they have a blog, but they don't know how to do it. And they're being approached by virtual assistants that aren't anywhere near or as close as you guys are to your own local people. So it makes them a little bit more comforting, just to know, hey, this person is, 10 minutes away, or this person is in reach. I could call them, and if I wanted to set up a coffee meeting, I could. And versus, maybe sending my money somewhere else. So keep those things in mind when you're looking for a client. Is there anything you would add to that, Shauntá?
Nope, you did good. Do you want to switch gears? I think that was very explained better versus just me just listing the places. Now you all have a view on how to use the platforms and some tips and tricks to get you some leads.
Absolutely.
And also in the chat, I did put a link to 14 different places that you could find job opportunities as remote or a VA, just in, just to touch on what we just spoke of.
Awesome. So we're going to get into the second part of this where we're talking about how to repurpose content so you can reach a broader audience. Well, Shauntá, I'm going to let you take the lead on the repurposing content, being that you do the blogs and the newsletter.
Repurposing content is pretty awesome and it saves you time, right? So if I'm writing a blog, I can also create a section of that or even a sentence into a social media post or a story or advertisement, right? So if you say when you first start off and you are sending out your proposals, different components in your proposals could go into a social media post, right? That way you don't have to recreate it. So if you have your price page on your proposal, if you have your services on your proposal, you can always turn that particular page into a social media post, and then you can hit all of your audience or all of your audiences on all of your platforms and informing them as to what you do. And just like these clubhouse rooms, we have replays, right? So anything that you are suggesting or teaching to anyone, you have a link that you can go ahead and put on any of your other social media platforms. If you do have clients and you have testimonials, that is a great opportunity for you to show your, what word am I looking for, Lovelee? Show your expertise in what you are doing. You can post it on your website. So basically, repurposing your content, anything that you create, you can manipulate it or tweak it into something else. That way, you don't have to continue to work so hard. And even when you're repurposing your content, you come up with so many other ideas, right? So even though I write blogs and newsletters, I can also turn those into workbooks, as well as books, as well as journals. So that was 3 different other avenues I could repurpose my content to bring in more income into my business or give more awareness or even create a freebie. I super love repurposing. I probably went way left field, but bring it back, Lovely.
No, I think that's good. I mean, look, I have to admit, when I started making content, which really was this year, because I think the first year I pretty much focused on, just being a virtual assistant. I will say that I do think people should make content. Content is really the new product. So it becomes just easier to sell and not just sell yourself for services, but just to sell your expertise, so forth, even if you want to say that. But it does take a lot of time. And if you are a person who is a perfectionist or you want things a certain way, oh my gosh. I mean, to me, that is, I'm going to just say, I feel like it's a little bit more work than actually the virtual assistant part. Because I'm like, I can't, hey,
Really?
girl.
But it's already done. You know what I mean? It's already
It's
done.
not already
Or
done.
you talking
Not when
about
you're
creating already
creating
new?
content.
Ah, yeah.
No, when you're
Okay.
creating content, it's new. It's not already
Gotcha,
done.
gotcha.
But now to repurpose it, yes, which you're going to want to do it. And that's why creating content is I think makes so much sense, because you can take that one thing that you did get done and you just reuse it, reuse it, reuse it, reuse it. You can put it in different packages, you can put it in different bundles. So that's why it's so important, or it makes sense to create content. And um really kind of all the time. But girl, no. uh-uh. No, because creating content to me is no joke. It's just it's like that essay paper. It's like it's I mean, there's simple ways to always do it, but it's just, to me, no, 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 no.
I think I
And
like
you can't really delegate that out either. So I think that's another thing. You know, when you're a VA, if you start to get a little too much or whatever, you can delegate that out. You can't really delegate your expertise onto a keynote or a slide, or you can't really do that. So maybe that's part of the problem, or I should say part of the challenges. But is it so worth it? It is, because then you have something set up that you can either sell as a course, you can sell as a mini workshop. I mean, you do. But I mean, you can bundle stuff up and you can make some really decent profit off of it. So it's definitely worth it. So I don't want to sound like that, but you know, people do trip me out because, I think part of our job is to make it sound like I can do it, you can too. And that part is very true. But it's not necessarily as easy as I think some people try to make it sound. And I'm not the person who's going to want to make it sound like, oh, well, hey, you wake up one day, you come up with an idea, do a Zoom call, record it, and then resell it for, I think this morning I heard someone saying $150. And then if you get 10 people, that's $1,500 in 1 hour. All of that is very true. It's very true, but you're going to have to market. You're going to have to warm up the audience. You're
all
going
of
to
that.
have to, it's more than just, I woke up, I threw this out there. And don't get me wrong, maybe for some people, that's an exception to the rule. It will happen and just fall in place like that. But it's a job. So I want to make sure that people who at least follow me know the truth. That yes, you can definitely have you a nice little webinar, just teach whatever it is. And then if you just want to teach and talk, I mean, that's fine. But, people have short attention spans these days. People are visual learners. So you really should, in my opinion, have something visually that they can look at too. Some of the best webinars I have been to, they're interactive. So maybe you have a workbook with that. Maybe you have some music that they can listen to if there's a dead silence time. All of that stuff. That takes work. It takes work, people.
It does.
So all I'm saying is, yes, you can just wake up with a great idea and you can throw it out there. But please be ready to put the work and the effort behind it. And yeah, I mean, just off of his example alone, I wouldn't say that that's far fetched or anything. You're talking about 10 people, right? At $150. And then if his webinar was 1 hour, he made $1,500 in an hour. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? And you definitely can get there. And that's why content is so important. So I would say, I'm a person that I like to take my little baby steps, get myself steady, take a few more steps, get myself steady. So I would say after you feel like you've really gotten the hang of being a virtual assistant, you kind of got, and it doesn't have to be, six figures or anything. You just got the hang of what you're doing. and it's flowing nicely, definitely start working on content, because that could just be the difference. If you're still looking for clients, maybe you just need to put something up there for sale and have that bad boy out there on almost autopilot, and let people just buy stuff from you and not necessarily a service. So keep those things in mind. Make sure that you are, recording what you do. You're thinking outside the box. And yes, you can repurpose it. So if you don't like social media, you can use it in several different ways and have some wonderful outcomes. So definitely think about that. What are some things, Shauntá, that you would suggest if you were a newer virtual assistant that you feel like should be repurposed first?
Your portfolio, the services that you have on there, and most people that have portfolios or choose to create a portfolio to send to potential leads in the beginning have testimonials already on there. So there's your credibility. You could grab those. I did it. I had testimonials from when I was in corporate America of some of my old managers that I reached out to them. I'm like, look, I'm starting a business. You all worked with me, and I was an executive assistant. So it kind of, and I turned those skills into my VA business. So even though they gave me testimonials, it still aligned with what I was about to do, right? Or what I was doing at the time. So I took those testimonials and I put them on Instagram before I even knew how to do posts or even fell more in love with Twitter. I had credibility. It was a little shocking, but it worked. So I would personally start there. As you are creating your portfolio, make sure you're creating it that you can repurpose whatever content or whatever information that you already have in it. It is a great start. Because if you have a 3 to 5 page portfolio, you got 5 posts right there. That's a week.
That's awesome. I never really even thought about it that way. I like that. I have never really even thought about it that way.
I didn't know what I was
I think,
doing, so I had to think outside the box.
hey, that I'm telling y'all, thinking outside that box is what's gonna make you or break you a lot of times. I do want to touch on the testimonials. I know this is kind of smorgasbord room today. I get a lot of people who are really, I don't have testimonials. I don't have clients. I don't have this. I don't have that. Well, you do. So you do not have to have clients to have a testimony. If you've never had a client before, there are people who have worked with you in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Please make sure you're following up with them and let them know, because there's such thing as, number one, character testimony. They want to know what type of person you are. It's not always even just about your work, what kind of worker you are. So I have found that when you're asking for testimonies, you have to be so extremely specific. Again, it's so funny because I think about this all the time. I'm not really this most specific type person. I'm a go with you flow type girl, but I will tell you, working online will make you specific. So, but you have
Yes.
to be specific about what you're asking people and what you want. Um, what is the conversation you really want to relay? If you can do that, it'll make it a lot better too. So you can ask them stuff like, how do you think my character as a worker is, whether it's hardworking, blah, 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 blah. Make sure you're kind of prompting people what to say. Otherwise, you may get some people who's like, oh, I've known Lovely since she was 5 years old. She's such a sweetheart. And this, and that. They'll tell you wonderful, great things, but maybe not things you can necessarily use in the way that it was given to you. So make sure you're specific. Maybe you want to say, if you worked on a certain project, how was your specific input make that project successful? You know what I'm saying? Like, so even when they sit here and they give, if they have specific questions, then you can always use those testimonies in a very specific light. And you basically want to focus on the fact of the outcome. How did you impact the outcome? You know, I don't care if you work for a food service and you're like, well, Lovely, that has nothing to do with virtual assistant. Did you show up every day? Did you? I mean, were you one of those who were willing to take on more responsibilities with an enthusiastic attitude? That would be more like characteristic. You can dig those kind of things out of wherever, you know. And then there are other skills, are you a problem solver? Are you, so think in those kind of ways, because those things can always still be used for testimonies, but have a picture of what you want the outcome to look like. And when you do have a picture of how you want the outcome to look like, it's just a lot easier to kind of guide people on how you want the testimony versus just saying, hey, just tell me how you feel about me, because that could mean so many different things. So try to be specific. I would also say, and I say this with a disclaimer, I do not, and I repeat, do not believe in free work. However, there are other options, except especially like non-for-profits. So let's just say there's non-for-profits out there. You really love animals. Maybe your humane society could use some more visibility, getting out their message to get the shelter unfilled or whatever, get people to adopt more. You can donate your time, and be like, hey, I'm a virtual assistant, and what I would like to do for you is donate some time to actually get your social media post up and running so we can get more people to come to this event or come through the shelter within this next week or two to adopt these animals. You can either quote them a lower price or you can say, I'm going to donate this time. Now, what you would do on the receipt is do your regular pricing, and then you would just put down that it was donated. And first of all, you can write that off on your taxes. I'm just saying that.
One more
Um,
time for the people in the back.
you know, but you can also say, what I would ask for you in return of me just donating this and just spreading the word as well is I would ask for you to give me feedback and a testimony on the service that I provided. And it doesn't have to be a long period of time. Maybe you decide that you just want to give them a week's worth of social media time. But I would say if you're going to do that, please make sure that you're still treating them the way that you would if any other customer, and you're over delivering. And then that way it will help get them to think, ooh, do we have anything in our budget to help, to maybe bring this person on? Or those people know people too, and maybe they know other people in other businesses, and they'll be like, hey, I noticed that this, and this happened within that week that we had her, blah, blah, blah. That's also another great way to build your portfolio if you don't just want to put what I would say ghost clients in there, and you're giving back to the community. So just make sure you are thinking outside the box, because all of those things do build up, all of those things count, and you can repurpose that to put it in your portfolio. You can repurpose that for social proof. You can get your testimonies. There's just a lot of different ways you can do that. And I'm sure there's a lot of different organizations that maybe you can approach them in that way and do something very similar. So that's just an idea there. Anything else you want to add, Shauntá?
When you go into Facebook groups, whatever Facebook group that you choose to go into to look for any potential job opportunities, go to the search bar in that group and type in hashtag job ops. That is the language that most Facebook groups that do allow for individuals to post job ops. That's the best way you're gonna find them, right? It's on that those trigger words, hashtag job ops. I know in the Virtual Savvy, that is how they structure theirs. And like 4 or 5 of the other ones that I frequent. How do you get the clients on LinkedIn? Okay, so on LinkedIn, you would go to jobs, the little button at the side, click on jobs, and you can actually type in virtual assistant, or you can type in remote, and you will have those key trigger words in the description or in the title of any position that a company is hiring for, and then you would just send your proposal. The thing with LinkedIn is just make sure that your resume is formatted for a company in LinkedIn, right? So Facebook groups hashtag job ops, you would send most people your portfolio, or most of the time they'll have a link for you to click on to fill out their application. However, they're still going to ask you for a portfolio or a website or some type of link to show what type of work you're doing. It's not so much like that with LinkedIn. It's basically the same old school job application. You just fill it out and then put in the credentials that they ask you for. Is that helpful?
I will also say clients are relationships. Really, relationships. Woof. And the reason why I say it like that is because I'm starting to think, if I didn't get a client off of Upwork and they came from Facebook or they came from our Clubhouse, it's a relationship thing. So I do not necessarily care for people who comes up in my DMs and they haven't really introduced themselves, or you could tell it's just like a template, like you copy and paste and say the same thing to everybody because there's a little pieces in it that doesn't pertain to me. I would say personal touch. I love LinkedIn, and one reason why I love LinkedIn is because to me it's not extra difficult to connect with people. You just really click on connect, and either they're going to accept it or not. And if they do accept it, so this is where I would say know your ideal client. I have a lot of people that I know deals with teams in some way, right? And then that's what I love to do is I love to work with remote teams and hybrid teams. So I may click on a lot of people who do teams even in their corporate work environment and connect with them. And then maybe I'll send them a message and be like, hey, thanks for connecting with me. I just see that you work with teams a lot. I specialize in teams from a digital standpoint, from a virtual standpoint, with people with digital businesses mainly. And I would love to see how maybe we could, get together, get to know each other a little bit more so we could collaborate in the future or see if that's a fit. Now, I know that wording was a little stumbled, but you get what I'm saying. And you may not get an immediate client, but I guarantee even if you just pick 5 people every day that you feel like is somebody that you would want to work with, collaborate with LinkedIn, and you start a little conversation, they're going to start to spread your name. You guys may collaborate later on. You can see how you guys can just really, complement each other. And that's really how you get those good clients. So, not just a client, but good clients, because now you are building a relationship and not necessarily just, hey, I need this money by the end of the month, which that's important too. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying. So, your clients is a relationship by relationship deal. So make sure you're networking, make sure you're stepping out and you're introducing yourself, make sure you're telling people who you are, and then make sure that you're following up with them. That's actually like something I do with you, Jody. So, I mean, I think if I remember correctly, I saw you in a Facebook group and I had messaged you our welcome bundle to help you out with in your virtual assistant journey. And I mean, now you're a mentee. So that's really how it works. It works the same way in reverse too, Jody. So think about that. when you see someone posting in a Facebook group that they're having issues, then, DM them or ask them if you're able to DM them if they would mind. DM them, introduce yourself, let them know what you can do and how you can solve their problem, or at least help them. Then give them some time, follow back up with them. Follow back up with them. Even if you feel like, oh, well, Lovely, I'm bothering them. In most cases, you're not. Most cases, you're not, and they want the help and assistance. And then that's how they convert over to a client, okay? Because they want to go with someone they trust and someone they have built some type of rapport with over just anyone that maybe they even see a Facebook ad for. So just keep those things in mind when you are getting it together, getting your clients from different online platforms. And is there anything you want to close us out with, Shauntá?
Join the newsletters. In our newsletters, Lovely's business as well as mine, we will always give you information or tips and tricks to help you along your way. So that'll be just another resource for you. Okay. Have an awesome week, everyone.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Two VAs and a Mic. I'm Shauntá Harris. And I'm Lovelee Brooks. Until next time.
Peace.